Assalamu alaikum, ladies. Alhamdulillah, I finally did it. I actually wrote a book. It's dedicated to all the single Muslim mothers out there, hence the name How to Be a Single Muslim Mum. Inshallah, it's available as an ebook, paperback, and it will be available as an audio. Alhamdulillah. Barakallah feekum, sisters, for the support. Check out the link in the description to get yours. The Niqabi Diaries, Season 4.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to another episode, season 4 of the Niqabi Diaries. Alhamdulillah, we have with us a sister here to share her niqab journey with us and more, inshallah. So, sister, could you please introduce yourself for the listeners and tell us a little bit about what you do, inshallah?
Of course, wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh first to you. And my name is, I go by Qa'qaa, also that American Muhajirah on Instagram and YouTube. I haven't been doing YouTube for a while now, but I was on it before. I'm basically a homeschooling mom of 3 little kids. My oldest is not yet 4, actually, so they're really teeny tiny. I have a degree in neuroscience, so I actually studied back in America, and then we moved to Pakistan like about, how long has it been, like 3 years now, alhamdulillah. So we've been adjusting to hijrah life, basically, and it's been amazing, to be honest with you. I really can't complain. There was definitely a learning curve, I'd say, in the beginning, but alhamdulillah, it's been absolutely wonderful and so worth it, literally so worth it. Alhamdulillah, I can't even begin to talk about the benefits. Like, it's just, it's been amazing, alhamdulillah.
Mubarak, sister, mashallah. So definitely hijrah to Pakistan sounds amazing and interesting. So I would definitely like to know about that a little bit later, inshallah. Could you tell us a little bit about your Islamic backgrounds and how you came to be wearing the niqab, inshallah?
Okay, yeah, sure. So my Islamic background, I would say, so I come from a religious family, alhamdulillah. I do have that blessing. My mom always wore niqab, so I grew up watching her niqab, basically, so it was really normal to me. And I come from, like, again, like my relatives, alhamdulillah, this is super normalized. Niqab is super normalized. But of course, that's amongst the family that's in Pakistan. And I did spend, so my dad, he actually, we grew up first in Florida in USA, and then he moved us to Pakistan for some time. So we did spend a few years of like our childhood in Pakistan. So I did get to see the culture here and everything. And I think that had a huge influence on me too. And then we ended up moving back to America, basically. So, but yeah, because I think that helped a lot. And then when it's actually funny. So when I moved back to America, it was in America that I actually started wearing niqab. I was 17 at the time. I was going to college, and I just, I just wanted to do it. My parents were, I think my mom, they were gone on Umrah actually. And I was like, can you buy me a niqab from Saudi? I just want to try it. Like, I didn't say that I was going to wear it or anything. I didn't want to overthink it, because I feel like a lot of times if you overthink things, you're just like never going to do it. So I was just like, I'm just going to try it. So I just asked her to buy me one just so I could try it. And when she came back, then one day I just wore it to college. And again, I was just like, I'm just trying it. Like, that's all I told myself. So that, like, I feel like you just feel like this pressure sometimes. So like, like, oh, if I start it now, it's going to be, I have to commit to it, and I have to do this, and it's going to change my life forever and all this stuff. So when you think too much about the permanence of it, I think that becomes a barrier sometimes. So the easiest thing to do is just say, I'm just going to try it and see how it goes, right? And that's exactly what I did. So at 17, when I wore the niqab and I went to college, it was amazing, like I still remember, I literally have such a clear memory, like that is like forever frozen into my brain. When I was just getting out of the car and I was walking towards campus, and just like I couldn't stop smiling, like behind the niqab I was just grinning. I was like, I remember I was like almost like jumping, like giddy in my steps, like I was just like so happy. It just made me so happy. And I was like, this is just so amazing. Like, there's nothing more beautiful than this feeling that I'm feeling right now. So why wouldn't I wear it? So alhamdulillah, I just immediately basically was, I just couldn't take it off after that. So that's how I started wearing it.
Alhamdulillah, it reminds me of when I started to wear the niqab as well, because I had a similar kind of mindset, I think. Like, I just thought I'm going to just try it out and just see how it goes, you know? So
Yeah.
it wasn't really
Yeah.
my intention that I'm going to like stick with it like the whole time. I had wanted to wear it, but like I was just like how you were saying, like I wasn't thinking, oh yeah, this is it. I'm going to wear it like all the time now. So I
Yeah.
just kind of, yes, yeah, I did the same thing. And then basically once I started wearing it, it was just like, why shouldn't I
Exactly.
keep wearing it? Do you know what I mean? I just felt
Exactly.
so comfortable with it, alhamdulillah. Yeah,
Exactly.
subhanallah. So it's just, yeah, I think it's good as well to have that kind of mind frame. Obviously, and like you said, it takes the pressure off when you decide that you kind of take it easier on yourself in the beginning. But it's nice as well to like have that determination, obviously, like once you feel that comfortable in it, because I think sometimes like this could be where the shaitan even tricks some of us, because you might think, oh well, I'm comfortable wearing it, but I don't need to keep wearing it, so maybe you might change your mind and think, well, actually I'll try again not wearing it. Do you know what I mean? So alhamdulillah,
Uh-huh.
we both stuck with it. Yeah,
Yeah, alhamdulillah.
alhamdulillah. So what about mashallah, it's interesting you mentioned that you started wearing it going to college. So
Yeah.
what was the reaction from like peers and stuff like that, like other people in your college, teachers and things, like how did they kind of react to the niqab,
Well, for
especially in
me, to be
America?
honest with you, before that, I was already wearing the hijab and the baya, right? And I was
Mm-hmm.
already the only hijabi in all of my classes. Like, I think on campus there was only
Wow.
like I would only like see like one other person, or like sometimes from far away, and I did it at like there was no interaction or anything like that with any other hijabi or anything.
Mm-hmm.
So it was like, I was already the odd one out. So what difference does it make if I wear a niqab? Like that was kind of the
Alhamdulillah.
thinking for me. I was like, if I'm already like, I'm already the bad sheep. What's a little bit more gonna do? Kind of a little bit like that, basically. So Alhamdulillah. But I was still nervous. I remember I was nervous, and one of my friends, she wasn't Muslim, she was African American actually, and she had told me, I was talking to her in my first class. It was biology, I still remember, and I was talking to her, and I was like, dude, what do you what do you think? Like, I don't know if I should do it. I mean, I just tried this for one day, but like, I don't know, like, I'm feeling kind of nervous. And she said, if you like it, stick with it. And I was like, you're right.
Hmm.
So then that's how that also gave me like, a little bit of encouragement. I would have done it, I think, regardless,
Yes.
because again, that feeling, I couldn't give it up. I would not want to give it up. And also my thing is
Hmm.
like, you always want to keep going forward. If you've taken a step
Exactly.
forward, why would you take a step backward? If you put on the niqab already
Hmm.
once, you can do it. Don't go backwards, right? So I would have probably done it anyway, but just having that extra support, that was really sweet, because my parents were really worried about it actually. When I put it on, they were like, "Oh, are you sure? Don't do it." Like, my dad actually told me like not to do it basically. He was like, "Oh, do it when you're older. Do it after you graduate. Do it then." But even though I do, again, like, my mom wore it all the time, but still, like, for me, because I was going to college, because, like, I would drive by
Yes.
myself and all this stuff, and at 17, that's still quite young. So
Hmm.
so he was, I guess, worried a little bit, but she was like, if it makes you happy, do it. And it definitely did. It definitely made me happy. So alhamdulillah. I didn't care after that what anyone thought, to be honest with you.
Alhamdulillah. So, during your time wearing it, especially in America, have you ever experienced any kind of negativity or hostility, any kind of abuse?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think it's just not that's to be expected, right? Also,
Hmm.
I grew up basically in Georgia, so that's like, down south basically. So it's part of the Bible Belt, right? And so it's, I mean, to be honest with you, more than like hostility, I always just found it funny, but like, one time, I think I've talked about this before. One time I walked into a store, and like, the cash register, the lady over there, she literally like gasped, like, so dramatic, and like, like, as if she was about to have a heart
Wow.
attack, literally. And she's like, oh, she was just like so scared, right? And then somebody else, her friend or whatever, they said, oh, masks are not, they're not allowed over here. Masks are not allowed. And the irony of that in COVID, though, right? I loved COVID for
Hmm.
exposing the hypocrisy. I loved COVID so much for that.
Yeah.
But anyways, yeah, she said, "Oh, masks are not allowed," and I was like, "Dude, this is not a mask. This is like, my religious clothing, basically." But anyways, I still walked right back out. I was like, "I'm not putting up with this," so I walked out, and I'm not like, I wouldn't entertain that kind of hatred, basically. So I just told him that, and then I left. And like, there was one instance when I was on campus. So I used to go to Georgia State University, which is downtown Atlanta, and there's a lot of homeless people over there, right? There's like there used to be a lot. Hopefully it's better now. I don't know. It's been years, but back then again, I was in the beginning, in my early few semesters, I was the only Niqabi, and if I ever saw a Niqabi on campus, I would always get so excited and so hyped. But slowly, Allahumma barik, alhamdulillah, people have started adopting Niqab more over there. So by the end, I remember I would see more people, and then my sister went there, so then she would tell me. So it started increasing, but still, I guess when I was going there, it was like strange. So when I was going from one class to another class, there was this area in particular where there was a lot of homeless people, and there was one guy and this is huge. This is broad daylight, by the way, absolutely broad daylight. There's like I'm walking in a crowd literally because this is peak hours and everything, right? And I was walking with my friend, alhamdulillah, and one of the homeless guys, he walked up behind me basically, and he just kind of like did this, like with his hands basically. It wasn't a real gun, thank God, alhamdulillah. But he did that, and he put it to my head. He came up behind me and put it to my head, and he said, he
Wow.
was saying things like, "Oh, you can't wear that here," and honestly, he was unintelligible. Like I couldn't understand what he was saying, but he was just like speaking hatred basically, and trying to say like, "Oh, I'm gonna shoot you," and stuff like that basically. But obviously he didn't have a gun.
SubhanAllah.
It wasn't particularly serious, alhamdulillah. And really that was
Alhamdulillah.
the worst of it, I would say. Hasn't been too much other than that, alhamdulillah.
How did it make you feel in that moment when that happened?
Well, I was honestly, obviously, a little shaken, but in the moment, I was fairly strong about it. Like it didn't bother me. I knew what to do. I knew how to. I just had to get away from him basically, because he wasn't an actual threat. I didn't need to respond to him. Didn't need to engage with him. So I just immediately removed myself from the situation, alhamdulillah. But I remember it shook up my friend a lot. Like she was like, after when we got away from him, she was literally physically shaking, I remember. And I was like, "Oh, it's okay." I was reassuring her. I was like, "Dude, it's okay. He didn't have anything. Nothing actually happened. He was just saying something. He's just homeless. It doesn't matter." And this and that, basically. So yeah, that does happen. Yeah.
Alhamdulillah. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about your hijrah. So I'm assuming that you've traveled while wearing the niqab. What was that experience like?
Georgia to San Francisco, yeah. And alhamdulillah, that was normal. I didn't have issues as such. Most of the thing is, the average American person is not a bad person, right? The average American people, they're not bad people. They're good people, to be honest with you. And I think we're seeing more of that right now too, like with everything with Palestine and just the protests that are happening. Like they actually do care. Like they have they have heart. It's not like they're evil people. But the corruption, right, at the top level, like where it actually matters, like DHS is like ridiculous. Like if you look at how many Muslim Pakistanis alone are put onto the no-fly list every single month, it's ridiculous. It's absolutely crazy. And just the process to get off of it. So this is another part of life as a Muslim in America that people don't talk about. Nobody talks about this. You'll never hear anybody talk about their experience with the FBI, but they do this. This is a reality. And yeah, that comes like one time my husband's friend, because my husband, he comes from a more like, they don't wear niqab. My mother-in-law, she doesn't wear the niqab. She has started hijab, mashallah, barik. But so the niqab, and back then I used to wear only black, right? And right now just like how I'm wearing right now, literally. But but at the time, like that was like, considered like it was seen as something extreme, basically. So
Mm-hmm.
I remember after I got married, like a couple months after, like the FBI actually asked one of my husband's friend, like, oh, why did he marry her? Like, oh, and she wears like, she wears the thing, the burqa, like, that way that they ask too with their concerned
Yes.
face and everything. So they're like, oh, and she wears the
Mm-hmm.
burqa. Why did she? And like, all this stuff basically. And he was like, yeah, she does, but like, it's just like, he said it was just a cultural thing. Of course, it's from the deen, but that's what he just said
Mm-hmm.
basically at the time. So yeah, that is a reality of like, being Niqabi in America. You are definitely going to be seen in that way. It's just some people don't have that experience, some people do have the experience, but you are more likely basically to have that kind of experience,
Mm-hmm.
especially because you dress this way.
Yeah, I think as well, it being from like, originally not like American, typically American, like from, African or Asian countries, or that doesn't really help as well, isn't it? SubhanAllah, because
Yeah,
yeah, it just adds
exactly.
to it. What's it been like for you now as an adult, as a wife, as a mother? You was living in America and you had a particular lifestyle there, and now you've moved to Pakistan. What is it like? Because I see some videos now online, alhamdulillah, for social media and even YouTube now, because you get to see sides of countries which in your lifetime you never thought you would get to see unless you've actually physically gone there yourself. And I
Yeah,
see, subhanallah, like, I've spoken to some sisters, like literally where they live is the most, well, like it's subhanallah, it's like a type of Jannah, stuck on like in this life, it just looks
yeah,
amazing. The most beautiful place. It's such a beautiful country,
it
subhanallah.
really,
And I think a lot of people, they don't think about Pakistan as being like a beautiful place to go, even for a visit, and most people who do go there, it's because they've got family there and they're visiting or whatever, and then they just go back home. But
mhm.
all that, with the people I know, not many people. I've never heard of anybody deciding that they're going to make hijrah to Pakistan, even if they do have family there. So, what's the experience been like for you? What's the cultural shift been like? So, just give us some examples, inshallah.
Yeah, honestly, it has been, I would say, magical. Literally, it's been absolutely magical. Alhamdulillah, it has been so beautiful. The culture is amazing. The people are unlike anything else. Like honestly, like there's so much opportunity for khair. Like that's my number one thing about Pakistan. Like there is just opportunity everywhere, and I absolutely love that. Like and the country, of course, the landscape is beautiful, the natural beauty, of
Mm,
course, there's all of that as well. But like, to speak more on the culture, like, especially I think as a mom, and especially as like a wife, like the amount of respect that you get, like, a lot of people, like, I feel like one problem that I've noticed, to be honest with you, the only complaint I have basically of Pakistanis is that they're quite ungrateful. And that's the only problem, because we have this issue of not realizing the blessings that we actually have. And a lot of times
mhm,
and there's a reason for this, to be honest with you. It's not the people themselves are ungrateful. There's a lot more to it, basically. Like, the media over here, for example, the media never shows the positive. It always, if hyper fixates
mhm.
on literally the most
Negative
minor
things.
negative
Yeah.
things.
Mhm,
And you don't need to be doing that. You really do not need to be doing that. Like, for example, I remember one time there was like a school fight amongst high schoolers in like one of the cities. I can't remember if it was Lahore or Islamabad, somewhere over there. There was like a high school fight between girls, literally. Like, and that was like major news for like forever. And I was like, why is this even news?
subhanallah,
Do people not know what happens in America? And they have like this
subhanallah.
utopian vision of like the West, basically, as if it's the most just,
Mm,
as if it's the most, the kindest, and this and that and everything. Everything good is
no
in the West,
corruption
and
and everything. Yep.
every it's ridiculous. Like, dude, like,
Subhanallah. Well,
people.
I didn't think Pakistan would have the same kind of problem, but like in West Africa, like it's literally like that. I'm coming from the UK, so it's like when people find out that I'm from the UK, they literally tell me that I should go back. They say, "Oh,
Yes,
here is
same,
not good. Go back to the
same,
UK. Take your husband
hmm
and go back to the UK." That's what they keep telling
same.
me. It's just like, why would I want to do that? They just don't get it. And
They
like,
don't.
you know, you know, when you said about the ungratefulness, I feel like the same kind of thing here. Like, you know, and I didn't think about it maybe in that kind of way, but like that's literally what it is. People don't seem to realize what they have over here, and there's so
Yes.
much freedom and so much opportunities, but
Yes.
it's like that
Exactly.
everybody just does everything like in one particular way, and they don't actually utilize the resources that they've got and the freedoms that they have, you know, because like
Mm-hmm.
literally
Yep.
you can do anything you want here. You can literally do anything,
Literally.
subhanallah,
Same.
but people they don't even know what to do with it, you know, subhanallah. And
Yeah.
especially like one of the issues that we have here is well, two things together. It's kind of they don't respect nature, and
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
because like they're literally just they cut
Litter.
down trees without a second thought, and then they complain that it's hot, but it's just like you cut down the tree, so that was giving you shade, but now you've cut it. So
Yeah.
it's just
Yeah.
like what do you
What
expect?
did you
And then the
expect?
second thing is
Yeah.
the litter. They make so much litter now because like plastic pollution is a big problem.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't know how it is in Pakistan, but I mean
Same.
here, they have
Mm-hmm.
these bags, like you know, you get water, you get these
Uh-huh.
bags of water. So instead of having like bottled water, they do have bottled water here too, like in the plastic bottles. But the
Okay.
most popular form that the local people use is you get water in a bag, and those
Oh no, we
water
don't have
bags are
that here.
ridiculous.
Oh
Yeah,
my
so
God.
it's like you know, you just so you can imagine like how much pollution there is just from these water bags, like because like
That's
you get it's like a
crazy.
500 ml bag, and you drink that you open the water, and it's like obviously it's a bag, so you can't close it back and
Right.
reuse it like you
Right.
would a plastic bottle. So it's just like it's a single use something. So you can just
Oh
imagine, like you know,
yeah.
in a country where there's so many people, subhanallah. So
Uh-huh.
yeah, it's just like there's so much litter from it, and people don't care. They just don't. Subhanallah. So which is really a shame.
Yeah, yeah. We do have a plastic problem for sure and a littering problem definitely. But even more beyond that, like, you know, just like and I've spoken to a lot of my other friends too who have made hijrah to like different parts of the world. And this seems to be a consistent theme actually. Like these countries that we've moved to, like, you know,
Mm,
back home basically, whether that's Morocco, Egypt, or like, you know, all these places literally,
mhm.
they still have this inferiority complex basically, where they
Yes.
think their own land is like so corrupt and it's so
Yep.
like, you know, the education is bad here, apparently everything's bad. But you know, actually
Mhm.
I have personal experience with that, right? Like because I again, I told you my dad, he moved us to Pakistan for a few years, right? So I went to the schooling system here and I've been to the schooling system there in America. Dude, there's a world of difference. I felt like an app. I literally felt my brain cells dying when I went to high school in America. Versus over here, when I was over
Subhanallah.
here in Pakistan, I was being challenged to the absolute maximum. Literally, it was crazy. Like
Mhm.
it was maybe almost too crazy. Like it might have been too much for me at the time. But it was like, you know, again, challenging, right? I think that that's a good thing. I think a healthy challenge is a good thing for you. But also, I don't necessarily agree with the educational system as a whole anyway, which is why I'm a homeschooling mom.
Yeah.
But
Homeschooling. Yeah,
that's
definitely.
that, that's another story. But in general, the educational system, if you compare them, you know, the average high schooler graduates in America reading at a third grade level. And I talk to
Subhanallah.
people over here, and they're like, you know, the words, the language that they're using, even though English is not their first language, but they speak better English than I do. Honestly, their vocabulary is like it's
Subhanallah.
fancier than mine is, and I'm like, dang,
Yeah.
I should know what that means, but I don't know what that
So
means.
much more advanced. Yeah. Subhanallah. I don't know where they get these ideas from that their education is bad and stuff like that. Because I remember like when I moved here, my son was, I think he was about 15. And I had wanted actually before coming here to just send him here, like, because I've been a homeschooler as well. So he got to the point where he thought, oh, I want to go to school. I said, I don't want you going to school in this country, like when I was in the UK. And it's just like, yeah, you
Yeah,
want to go to
definitely.
school? I'll send you back home.
Yeah,
You could go to school in
yeah,
Ghana, you know. So
yeah.
my intention was that I would send him here for just at least 6 months just to see how he gets on, but in the end that didn't happen, and I ended up coming here myself with them. So
Hmm.
he went to school here for a year, and
Uh-huh.
subhanallah, like now he's gone back to the UK, and he's you know, he's at college. And subhanallah, like anytime I ask him how is he doing in college and stuff, he's always telling me like literally he finds it so easy. Like he's just like
Exactly.
it's like it's almost like
Exactly.
nothing for him now, you know.
It's nothing.
He was here and studying, and it was just like literally everything's easier over there for him now, because it's like, you know, and it's not to say that he was finding the study here so hard, but alhamdulillah, he did really well here, and he was, you know, getting top marks and stuff like that, alhamdulillah. But when he got, since he's been back in the UK, it's just like, yeah, it's just easy. Like, you know, I've been asking him how's he doing, and it's just like it's like a walk in the park.
Exactly.
Subhanallah. So it's just like,
Exactly.
yeah, you know, and you know, because I was a bit worried here myself, because people always talk about how the education isn't up to scratch here and stuff like that, and it's just like I would like to know what exactly do they mean. What do they mean
Yeah.
by that? You know, I don't know if it's the teaching style they're referring to, or maybe the books, the way they look. I don't know what it is, because I'm just thinking, well, like they make them study all the time here. They're so strict, you know, like
Yeah.
literally they're all about studying. Like the school day is ridiculously long over here as well, which I mean I don't agree with that either, but I just think for living in a hot country, you know, I spoke to a sister who made hijrah to Somalia, so Somaliland
Okay.
actually, and she was saying that they start school around maybe 7 in the morning or something like that, but they finish by around dhuhr time. So obviously that's
Okay.
the peak heat of the day when it starts to get hot. So they have that. And then
Okay.
you know, then a little bit later, then they can have their madrasas and stuff like that, you know. So they have that break. But here it's not like that. It's like they kind of make their school system like kind of very westernized. They're trying
Okay.
what they think is Western. So, but they start school at like my son had to be at school for like 6:30 in the morning. You know,
Okay.
even though the school didn't start till about 8, but they want them to be there 6:30
What?
for
That's
and then registration will be about 7, and then I think the
okay.
first lesson will be from about 8 o'clock, and then they finish like 3:30. And
Okay.
subhanallah, then they have this thing where when they get to the last year in junior, because junior high, the third year of junior high, they have like when they're about 16 going 17, that year they take them into boarding school, so that every school becomes a boarding school at that level, which is like,
What?
and I was just like, you're not, yeah, I was just like, you're not doing boarding school. And it's just like, you live 5 minutes from the school, why do you need to sleep there?
Right.
And when you
Literally.
talk to the
What?
teachers,
That's crazy.
they're like, oh, because the children, they need to do more study, and you know, when they're in boarding, they can focus more on their studies. It's just like, I said, well, he's focusing on his studies at home. Why do he need to be in the school, like living the
Yeah.
school? Like, it's just
Yeah.
ridiculous.
Literally.
It's
Dude,
crazy.
that's
It's crazy.
crazy.
Like, and it is, you know. And you know what's funny as well? Like, one of the schools that we went to when we was looking for a school for him, they had like a list of things that you need to buy for, you know, when they do the boarding. And one of the things on the list was actually a cutlass.
A
There's a
what?
cutlass, because apparently a cutlass is, you know, the cutlass, you know what they use to chop down the large grass? I'm sure they must have it
Why
in
do they?
Pakistan. I don't know what they call it there, but you start these
Why do they
long,
need
really
that?
big, long knives. Yeah,
Oh my God. That's
these big,
crazy.
long knives. So, yeah, that's one of the requirements. That's on the list of things along with the uniform and stuff. They have that. Yeah. Yeah, every student has to have their own cutlass, because they make them like be chopping grass and stuff.
Dude,
I
that's
just feel like this
funny.
is
That's almost
ridiculous.
funny.
I
That is
know,
ridiculous.
like
Yeah, that's the
literally,
word. Oh my God, that's
subhanallah.
insane.
So yeah, it's crazy, isn't it? Like subhanallah,
Yeah,
it's just
that
like there's no way you're going into boarding school. Like literally, it's just ridiculous, subhanallah. So
yeah.
okay, you're homeschooling. I spoke to a sister recently from Pakistan as well. She's a homeschooler. She's a young.
Okay.
I think she's still maybe in her teens actually. So
Okay.
her father has homeschooled them. So
Oh,
you know, she's the child homeschooler. Yeah. So yeah, alhamdulillah. So I was asking her about homeschooling in Pakistan, because obviously it's not something that's so common there.
yeah.
But she said that there are some communities where people are actually doing homeschooling. So obviously your
Yep.
children are still quite young at the moment, but have you been able to find you know, any kind of communities or circles where, you know, people are, you know, doing homeschooling, so that you can kind of, you know, get acquainted with some other sisters or families at the moment?
Yeah. Several. There's several community. There's literally communities in every city of Pakistan, basically. At least all the major cities. I don't know about the other
Alhamdulillah.
ones. But definitely, and
Mhm.
because also I was in a different city in Pakistan before we moved here, and over there as well, the community was amazing. There was an incredible homeschooling community, and the thing is, again, like over here, right? When they're homeschooling, they're coming with the Islamic perspective. So these people are like, dude, they're like superstars. Like
Mhm.
if I could get on that level, like I would be over the moon, you know? Like it's not like America where like, okay, you're homeschooling, sure, but like, you still have to follow like a certain curriculum, or you have to do this, you have to do that. There's still
Mm,
regulations to follow. But in Pakistan, it's the most freedom you can possibly have. There nobody else has a say in what you teach your child and how you teach your child and what you give, whatever, however you deal with your child. Nobody else has a say except for you.
Alhamdulillah.
The government doesn't have any say. You can do
Alhamdulillah.
literally whatever you want, and that gives you so much room for such incredible tarbiyah that you could do, that it's just like phenomenal. Like there's so much potential that you could be like, that you could be availing basically. Alhamdulillah. So yeah, and that's the thing. Like that's another thing. Like, people talk about freedom in the West. You don't have freedom over your own kids in the West. You don't have freedom over your own children in the West.
Exactly.
Like, what kind of freedom is that? You can't even tell your child that being gay is wrong. Literally, you cannot say that. You cannot say
Subhanallah.
that
Subhanallah.
LGBTQ is wrong, because if he says that, if your child then goes and says that to, like, somebody whose parents are literally, LGBTQIA plus XYZ
Mhm.
whatever,
Mhm.
then, like, you're
I
gonna
just
have
call them alphabet. I
the
just call
entire
them
alphabet,
alphabet community because it's
literally
easier.
the
It's literally
alphabet
easier.
community. Yes.
Subhanallah.
Yes, that. It's just like, it's ridiculous. So alhamdulillah, like we have so much to be grateful for, but like people are just focused on the wrong things. Of course, there's also the grass is greener on the other side, but also I think like,
Mhm.
there's like I mean, I try not to be like a conspiracy theorist, but there's a reason that like, all the Muslim nations basically have this
Of course,
this kind of
this
mindset.
complex. Mhm.
Yes,
Definitely.
there's a reason
Definitely.
for it. Like, there's a reason that we constantly undermine ourselves. There's a reason that we are
Mhm.
not living up to our potential
Like
because we
remnants of
like,
colonialism, I think.
yes, 100%, 100%. That's exactly what it is. And also because, like, think about it. Can you just imagine if we had mass hijra? If, like, if all the British Muslims, all the American Muslims, all the Canadian
Mhm.
Muslims, if they went back to their countries and they took back, like, they took back the power basically, and if they brought
Mhm.
all these values, because like, if you brought the values of like, time management, because that's one thing that Pakistanis struggle with, right? Like being on time with things, like but growing up
Mhm.
in the West, we tend to do better with that, right? Because we're, again, just used to a different culture. So if we brought those things back, can you imagine the efficiency that we would be able to bring to Muslim countries, and the
Exactly.
opportunities, and how we could strengthen Muslim economies, literally? And like,
Mhm.
a lot of people complain about like right now, where's the Muslim countries, where's this country, why isn't this one doing anything, why isn't that one doing anything? Well, did you strengthen your country enough that it could do
Exactly.
something?
Exactly.
We didn't. We
Exactly.
abandoned our countries. We
Exactly.
left our countries. We
Exactly.
weakened our
Go back
countries.
home
And
and
then we're
fix it.
complaining.
Like
We
I know it
physically,
sounds maybe very simplistic to say go back home and fix it, but the reality is, it's like you said, like more of us need to go back home. That's what it needs to be, because the changes are going to be small, but inshallah, it's like it's going to take a time, but
it's
it
gonna
will be
take
small changes over a long period of time. But we have to start somewhere. That's just how it is, SubhanAllah. Because
exactly.
the other thing that came to my mind when you started talking about this was, it's unfortunately how even like I'm sure that it's a similar thing in Pakistan as well, because I know here, one thing that I've noticed with West Africans is that they judge each other's intelligence by how good they can speak English. So it's just like,
Yeah,
if
same.
somebody can't speak English, it's like that person is stupid, they're not educated. But the
Yeah, yeah.
person might have knowledge which is which other people don't have, but because they haven't been to a regular school and they haven't learned to speak English, it's like, oh, this person is seen as like, they're not intelligent, they're a lowly person. SubhanAllah. And I
Yeah.
see that a lot here, and it's unfortunate because it's like in this country, in order to have like a regular office job, you need to have been to university, whereas in the West, anybody can have an office job. You don't have to go to university to work in an office, but here that's how it is. And
Yeah,
and
exactly.
those people, they could still be earning less than a woman, for example, who has a stall in the market and is selling vegetables, but
Exactly.
they
Yeah.
still look down on
Yeah.
that woman. They still look down on
Mm-hmm.
that woman, and the money that she's making, she's using that to send, to pay for her children to go to school, so that they
Yeah.
don't have to work in the market, so that they're not looked down on. And it's
Right.
just ridiculous. But yet she's earning more in a month than somebody who works in an office.
Yeah.
And even
Yeah.
here, like a teacher or a lecturer, their salary is very little. Do you know what I mean? It's not like they're earning a lot. So you spend all this money to go to university to then become a teacher or whatever, and you're not getting that much. Like, and what exactly, like, I'm just, as you said, like, I'm just one of these people. I'm not really for the education systems in general, because I don't think that they're doing that much of benefit. Okay,
It
so I was
benefits.
just waiting for my husband outside the masjid, and there was a young man sitting there, and he happened to be a Christian, but he basically just started talking to me. So he was basically saying, like, because obviously he could hear from my accent that I'm from the UK, right? So he's like, oh,
Right.
there's no opportunities here, there's no jobs. And I said, he said, "Oh, I've been to university, and I'm qualified, but there's no jobs here." And I said, "The same things that you're complaining about now is exactly the problem that there's people in the UK have. There's no
Exactly.
difference." I
Exactly.
said, "It's exactly the same problem." I said, "The only difference here is that obviously, if you leave here now and you go to the UK, you take a job, for example, like a cleaner, or work in a restaurant, for example, and
Yeah.
get
Yeah.
minimal pay, and you'll be
Literally.
happy with that, because over here the money is like, that money translated here is gonna be a bit of something, but in the UK it's not going to be anything. If you stayed in the UK on
Exactly.
that wage, you're not going to be doing anything. It's not going to do much for you." So I said, that's
Exactly.
basically, your complaint is the same as the youth in the UK, the same problems. Subhanallah. So
Exactly.
the people, people have this kind of mentality where they think that their situation is so unique to other young
Yes.
people in other parts of the
Yes.
world, in the Western countries,
Yes.
but actually the situation is actually the same. And I
The
was
same.
trying
Yep.
to encourage him. I said, like, I said, the best thing for you to do here, save some money and buy yourself a piece of land and start growing your own food. And the way he looked at me, like, like, are you crazy? And he goes, oh, because in this country, farmers are not respected. And I said, yeah, farmers aren't respected here. And because of the way the system is set up, most farmers are. So when people have a piece of land, they whatever they, I don't know how it is in Pakistan, but how, like, it seems here that whenever farmers have land and they're doing the work and stuff like that, whatever they grow, they can't use it for themselves, or if they can take something, it's very minimal. So it's not something that their family can really live on, and that maybe
Oh,
they'll be growing like one crop. But I said to him, like, you should, if you get a piece of land, like even a small piece of land, you can grow multiple different crops and at least just feed yourself. At least if you could just even start there, just feed yourself with it, because then you
that's
won't have
true.
to worry about getting food. Because
That's
why
true.
do we need to earn money in the first place? We need to earn
To
money so
feed.
we can eat, isn't it?
Yeah.
And at
Basically.
least, like, once you start growing your own crops, you'll have something that maybe if you have extra, you can be using that in exchange, or you sell it, some of it,
Yeah.
so you can be able
That's
to do
true.
other things that you need to do. I said, you need to start
That's
thinking
true.
like that, think out of the box a little bit, because that's an opportunity a lot of young people in the UK definitely don't have.
Yeah.
Who
They
can
can
buy land in a Western country,
absolutely no
and
one.
still whatever. And I see that people in Western countries now, and even in Asian countries where they live in big cities, people are growing multiple different types of food just on their balconies. Like,
Talking.
subhanallah, it's just
Yeah.
like, if
Yeah.
you can do that on a balcony, just imagine that
Yeah.
person, if they have a little piece of land, a little bit of garden, you can do so
That's
much. So there's really no excuse here. And subhanallah, the land here is so fertile. Things
fertile. Yeah.
grow through the concrete. I've seen, like, tomatoes and garden eggs, different vegetation literally growing through the concrete. Like, nobody's planted it. It
Amazing.
grows like spun by itself. So it's
Wow.
like, if people took the initiative to cultivate, they
Yeah.
could be doing so much more, but nobody wants to think like that. This is the problem here. SubhanAllah, it's like people just need to shift their mindset and realize
Right.
what they have and what they could be getting. But
Yeah.
subhanAllah, it's just I think that's why it's important, like you said, if more people like us was to go back home, and at least, like, it's not, and not, I don't want to, like, sound like arrogant, but just show them that what they can do with what they have.
Yeah.
Like let them know that you don't need to go to America, you don't need to go to the UK to make something of yourself. You just need to change a little bit of what you're doing over here. That's literally it. Make some adjustments, do something a little bit different, and it can go a long way, subhanallah, literally.
100%. Yeah, yeah. And I don't think that that's arrogance. I think just like, it's just a different perspective, right? And also because you have to realize we, like everybody over here trying to go to the West, right? Well, we've been to the West. We've seen the West. So we have a responsibility basically now to actually
To let
relay
them
the
know the
truth
truth.
about the West. Because
Exactly,
people are just
exactly.
they're so delusional about like, about these
Mhm,
countries. Like they literally hold delusions about them. Like they don't understand the reality, and sometimes even when you tell them, they still don't accept it, by the way, like literally so many times,
mhm,
because
mhm.
they're just
Definitely,
so
they don't get it.
yeah, they cannot get it through their heads. Subhanallah. But but most people, alhamdulillah, honestly, the ones that I've spoken to over here, they've been like, oh yeah, that makes so much sense. Oh, you're right. Like, most people are able to understand, and there's a lot of people that are subhanallah, waking up to the truth of this now. So
Mhm,
it's getting better. It's getting better. But inshallah, I really think that like if there was like, mass hijrah, and if we could bring that back and bring that talent back and like, bring that vision back to our own countries,
mhm.
then we'd be able to see a stronger ummah that can like, actually do something for
Yeah,
itself.
inshallah.
Inshallah.
Inshallah, inshallah. May Allah facilitate for us. Ameen, ameen.
Ameen.
Subhanallah.
Allahumma ameen. Allahumma ameen.
Okay, so alhamdulillah, you're in Pakistan now, and what's the Muslim community like there compared
The
to the
Muslim.
US?
Okay. This is dude, it's so different. It is so different. So like
Mhm,
in America in particular, I still feel like the British Muslim community is different and the American Muslim
mhm,
community is very different. So one
mhm.
thing, niqab is actually way more common in UK than it is in America. That's one thing. Just straight
Okay.
off the bat. But in general as well, like okay, like just simple. Let's just talk about ease, right? Like in America,
Mhm,
if you want to attend, like America is huge, right? So it's not, UK is pretty
mhm.
easy to access because it's a smaller country, but America is ginormous. So even if there is like a Muslim community, it's always usually not close to you, or it's going to be like, like a
Yes.
50-minute drive. Like if there is like, somebody who's giving like a lecture or an Islamic talk or something, it's sometimes like, at least 50 minutes or at least an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours drive,
Mm,
literally. So it's not like, it's not feasible for everyone. And then when you go there and you attend these talks and lectures, honestly, a lot of time, like, I'll be honest with you, back in the day when I was still there, right, I would go to the Jummah khutbah and I would, well, this also depends on where you are. Georgia, there was one
mhm,
masjid that I used to go to, was absolutely amazing. I loved that masjid. So over there, the imam was amazing. His khutbahs were amazing. Like, it was always like, a boost of iman. But then when I moved to California,
mhm,
uh, that was a totally different experience. And the masjid that I was going to over there, we would try a few different masjids, and it was like, I would leave the Jummah khutbah more disappointed, basically. Like, why are these the things? Why is this
subhanallah.
the message that we're giving to American Muslims? This is not the message that we need to
Mm,
be hearing. Like, for example, like, there's a huge, dude, free mixing, right? Something as simple as free mixing. There,
mm,
there was one so-called scholar that came to the masjid over there, and this is a big masjid that he came to, and I attended the dars thinking like, oh, this is going to be amazing. He's such a well-known scholar. I'm so excited to listen to him. Let's see what he says, right? I was so excited. And he goes and basically what came out of the lecture, what I got from the lecture was basically a normalization of free mixing. And I was like,
subhanallah.
why would you do this? Why would you do this at a time when American Muslims, literally, their marriages are actually literally full? And I'm talking about this from like, literal examples of people that I know, right? Their marriages
Mm,
are literally falling apart and ending in divorce because women are literally cheating on their own husbands with their group of friends, basically, like from someone like that's in their group.
subhanallah.
So when these are the problems that the community is having, like, you, dude, I went to, oh my
Mm,
god, in Ramadan, right? In Ramadan, the last 10 nights. So they would have a special program at the masjid at night for the odd nights especially. The
Mm-hmm.
worst thing I ever went to was those events. The worst thing I went to.
Subhanallah.
Literally, like there was so much fitna. And I understand coming to the masjid, but like honestly, this is why again there's that saying of Hazrat Aisha, like where she said if Rasulullah saw you, he would ban you from the masjid. Like that kind of thing. Like I totally understand that because women were there decked out, literally decked out in clothes that are like, not appropriate for the masjid. Like when you come to the masjid, please, I understand all of us are sinners, but when you come to the masjid, come in an appropriate way. This is the house of Allah. There are men here that have come to pray, and it's fard on them to pray. It's not fard for you to go to the masjid and pray, but they have to pray. So at least, like, don't tempt them in this way. And they're like, so much perfume. You walk through them, all you smell is just
you can
perfume
smell it. Yeah.
and cologne and oh my God, horrible environment, literally. And this is imagine like one of the most powerful nights. Literally, it could have been Laylatul Qadr, and this is what's happening. So that's the American Muslim community, but also not every Muslim American community is like that. Again, it is different in different areas. Alhamdulillah, thank God for that. But I think I just like saw maybe I'm hoping that was the worst of it. I'm hoping because I can't imagine how it could get worse, and I don't want to hope that it gets any worse. I don't want to believe that. So and it's just gotten progressively worse. Like friends that we have there still, like they talk about it and they're like, it's just like this is like I don't think I can go to the masjid anymore because it's become a fitna. Literally, imagine men have to say that. Like men are not going to the masjid because it's a fitna. Like that's how bad it is. And versus over here now in Pakistan, none of that. Absolutely none of that. Even our protests, basically, it's not even a protest, to be honest. By the way, I'm not really pro-protests because, again, free mixing music, all this stuff. I'm not pro-protest. If it's that kind of protest, I don't agree with that, and I think it's haram to attend those. But in the Muslim lands, look at this. I'd never been to a protest in America in my life because of those reasons, right? But when I came over here, I went to one. I was like, let's see. I really want to just see how it is over here. I want to experience it. So I went to it. It was segregated. Can you imagine a segregated protest? How does that happen?
Alhamdulillah.
It was totally women were there was like two. It was a two-way road, right, with the divider in the middle. So women were on one side and the men were on the other side, and they were literally divided. And there was 1 million people, by the way. There was 1 million people. Like it was a huge protest. So it's not. There's no excuse. Ever since I saw that, I was like, there's no excuse for people in the West. Like, they're saying, oh, this is necessary, this and that. Like, no, you could be doing things the right way because look, the Muslim lands are doing it the right way. They're showing up in solidarity for Palestine. They're raising awareness. They're doing all of this and they're doing it in the right. There was no music. There was not a single song being played. The slogans were all Islamic, literally saying, talking about our relation and talking about La ilaha illallah. This is what it was. Imagine. And I was blown away. So that's like when you compare the communities, it is totally
massive difference. Yeah,
massive.
Subhanallah.
It's and just like when you go to the masjid over here. So a lot of the newer masjids that are being built, before there wasn't a culture of like Muslims praying in the Muslim women praying in the masjid, but now now there's more women areas in like women's spaces in the masjid, and it's beautiful. I've been to so many massages over here. They're absolutely amazing, like very well kept and everything. And just again, separate entrances, totally separate entrances. Everything is like separate, and just the respect for the women and their privacy is unmatched. Like over here, like when my husband's friend, when he comes, or like my husband, he works from home, right? So his business associate, whatever, like whenever he comes, he just goes. My husband gets the door, and then they go. He never even says salams to me, by the way, which is like people in America used to take offense to that. They used to take offense to, oh, why didn't he say salam to me? He doesn't need to be saying salam to a non-mahram woman. Over here, actually, there's so many men that take offense if you say salam to their wife. You're not supposed to be saying salam to the wife. Like, you're supposed to be respecting, and literally, like, the lowering of the gaze, like the way
Mm-hmm.
people speak, the way men speak over here, wherever I go, whether I go to the bank, where I go to groceries, I do this, I do that, whatever I do, I have been treated with so much respect. I can't even put it into words, literally. So, like,
Mm-hmm.
the honoring of the religion, especially because, like, again, we're dressed a certain way, right? So then people perceive us in a certain way. Like, this is a people perceive you as like a religious woman, basically. May Allah subhanahu wa
Mm-hmm.
ta'ala actually make us that, and, like,
I mean,
make us to that level, inshallah. But just based on outer appearances, that's what they expect. And look at their love for the deen, that anybody who represents the deen, they honor in such a beautiful way everywhere you go.
Alhamdulillah.
And I've
Alhamdulillah.
been to, like, the most modern places. I go to, like, my husband, we love to eat out over here because, finally halal food, right? So
Yeah, yeah.
so we've been
MashaAllah.
to, like, the fanciest restaurants. We've tried this and that, and it doesn't matter what class. Like, people talk about, oh, the elite, they look down on the niqab or something like that. I've
Mm-hmm.
been in those circles, and alhamdulillah, I've been treated with nothing but respect every single time I've walked in. From the security guard at the door, to the waiter who seats us, to the manager when I ask him to turn the music down, which is another blessing. You can do that. You can ask them to turn the music off if there's music in the restaurant, and they do it.
Alhamdulillah.
9 times out of 10, they usually
Mm-hmm.
do it for me. I really appreciate that
Mm-hmm.
so much. So, alhamdulillah,
Alhamdulillah.
there's a world of difference. World of difference.
MashaAllah. That's amazing. That's really good to hear as well. It's so nice to hear positive stories coming from Pakistan, because I think,
Yeah.
what we see, especially when we're living in Western countries, we see just negativity from there, like, all the time. Like, especially when you're talking about protests and things like that, like, you see mobs. You don't see, like,
Yes.
these kind of protests like you just described. You see these kind of
Exactly.
mobs. Like, the last thing I saw, which was unfortunate. And the thing is, these things can happen in any country. But what I saw recently on social media was a woman. She was wearing like a shalwar
The
kameez, I
Arabic.
think, or something like that.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
and people were losing their minds. They thought it was the Quran that she was wearing on the dress, and it's just like, subhanAllah, if you've read the Quran, you would know that it isn't. Like,
Exactly.
and it's just
Exactly.
like, you see things like that, and obviously, like, it's not good that that's happened, but
Hmm.
and obviously,
But again, the
may
over
Allah grant those
attention,
people
right?
knowledge.
Yeah,
Exactly,
exactly.
something like that is so blown out of proportion, and
Exactly.
it shows that, obviously, like, for me, what I saw was that obviously there's a lot of passion in the people for their religion, but at the same time, it's with ignorance, because if they really knew what the religion was or
Yeah,
understood
they
it,
wouldn't do
then
that.
they wouldn't have done that in the first place, because they would know that
100%.
it isn't a thing. But it just goes to show, like, there's it's and subhanAllah, you see these kind of things happening in places, and you think, like, who did that? Because somebody must have been responsible for, igniting that, among those, that
Exactly.
group of people.
Exactly.
They
Yes.
knew and they knew that they would be able to do that, because, obviously, those people obviously wasn't that educated when it came to their deen. So, subhanAllah, so it's
Exactly.
like these things are done. I feel that they're done purposefully, just to
Yes.
make, certain countries, have
Look bad.
look bad, basically, and,
Yes.
leave you with this kind of negative, mentality. Like, subhanAllah, recently I've been seeing, even on YouTube, there's a lot of, westerns now. It's been
Uh-huh.
coming a trend, actually, that, Western YouTubers,
Yeah.
like, for
Yeah.
example, American countries, are going to countries like Afghanistan, even, and it's
Yeah.
actually one of their favorite countries in the world, they said, to go to, because of how good the hospitality is over there. And, subhanallah, so it's just like, but when people say Afghanistan, there's this negative connotation now, because of what's happened in the past 20 odd years, and they
Right.
keep, making this issue about women and hijab and the burqa and all this kind of stuff. But,
Right.
it's like, it's not what the media have been, pushing down our throats, basically. And I think,
Exactly.
like, the issue of hijab is, like, they just keep going on about hijab, hijab, hijab all the time, women being forced to wear the hijab, but nobody talks about in Western countries where women are pressured to take their clothes off, or women are made to feel that they shouldn't dress, like, they shouldn't wear clothes, or they
Exactly.
feel they need to be a particular size because they need to wear this
Exactly.
bikini or whatever.
Yes.
All these
Exactly.
kind of social pressures, and I see that, like, even, I've seen some things recently from, is there, new Muslim converts, for example.
Uh-huh.
And I well, like, I wish, and I think I need to just have maybe an episode where I just talk about this, but I wish that every new Muslim would just stay off social media, especially the sisters, especially them, because it's just like,
Yeah.
you coming on, you have maybe a following on social media, or some of them don't even have a following before becoming Muslim, but then because they became Muslim and they're coming from a
Yes.
Western background, it's like they become a
Yes.
celebrity because of that,
Celebrity.
or an
Yes. Yes.
influencer, whatever that
Yes.
means. And it's just
Yeah.
like, then it's like you're throwing yourself to the wolves. You don't have time to just get
Yes.
to know your religion properly, just focus on yourself and do your own thing. And it's like, you can get the positives, which is good. It's nice to get the encouragement, but just stay within your own Muslim community and just develop as a
Exactly.
Muslim. Why do when I became Muslim, there was none of this spit now, you just be in the Muslim community, you get to know about Islam, you take your time and learn about your deen. You can be more focused. But it's like, now everything's online. That everything about their journey and their deen is online. And it's not
Unfortunately.
helpful, because if the sister is struggling to wear the hijab, it's like she's showing her hijab journey online. Then when she gets criticism, she's upset about it. And
Of course.
you're
Yeah.
having to, instead of having to deal with a pocket of people in your local community, you're having to deal with the
Exactly.
whole, literally
The whole
like a
entire
whole
world.
ummah, because you put
Exactly.
yourself out there. You've opened
Exactly.
yourself up for the criticism.
Yep.
And I
That's true.
just think it's just detrimental, and especially when you still, and not only that, some of them are still showing their previous lifestyles as well, and they feel
Yeah.
like it's okay to show these things. But it's just like, well, actually, yes, when you take shahada, all your previous sins are forgiven, but it doesn't mean you should still tell people about your previous sins and expose
Exactly.
them. This is not what it is. It's not
Exactly.
acceptable. It's like you're undoing what Allah has, like, covered for you, at least.
Covered for you.
And it's just, I
Exactly.
don't know, like, it's like, I just feel like, who's advising these people? Why are they feeling so free to do these things? Because it's not helpful to them. And I just pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala continue to guide them and keep them on the straight path, because I think that when I see certain things, I feel to myself like, if these people don't stay in Islam, I wouldn't be surprised,
I
because
agree.
the
I
challenges
agree.
are just so
Yeah.
much, and like,
Yeah.
sometimes you hear from them themselves, because of the
Uh-huh.
criticism that they're going through and experiencing. Some of them say, oh,
Right.
sometimes they feel like just not bothering to be Muslim anymore. They
Right.
actually say that. And
Uh-huh.
that's not how our religion is. You don't base your religion on somebody's opinions, or how somebody's treated you. Islam is
Exactly.
the truth, and that's it. It's not about
Exactly.
if the
The
Muslims
focus
are
should
good
be
or
on
not.
that. Yes, exactly, exactly. But wait, and
SubhanAllah, it's
the other problem is people online. You have to like people are online are just used to trolling, right? Like they're used to.
exactly,
It's just easier to be mean online than it is in person. So honestly, if you just stayed within your own community,
of
people
course,
would people would guide you in a kinder way. In person, people are much kinder.
exactly.
But somehow online, like I don't know what happens, like all the evilness and all of the like I don't know why people are so hypercritical when it comes to like the online community, but it's just better. It would be way more beneficial. You're right, 100%. If they just stuck with their actual real life community in their
Yeah,
physical,
just
physical.
stop being online. And even if you're
Yeah,
going to be online, let it be like very minimal stuff. Stop sharing your life, because the
yeah.
problem is
Don't
they're
share your
sharing their
own life.
life.
Exactly. Don't share
They're
your own
literally
life.
sharing
Easier
their
to take
life, like
benefit.
what they're doing. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
I just think
Exactly.
it's not helpful. Like, you must, I don't know what they think they're going to achieve by that, but it's just really not. I don't think it's helpful at all. I think
I
it does
agree.
a lot more harm than it does good, subhanallah.
It
So
does.
I really wish they would
Definitely.
stop doing that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Inshallah. Hopefully.
subhanallah. You touched on a little bit there about how how much women are respected and stuff like that in Pakistan and everything, alhamdulillah, which is fantastic. Do you feel that there's a difference between how sisters who wear the hijab get treated compared to sisters who are wearing the niqab?
100%. 100%. I think there's a ginormous difference. I think there's a world of difference. Like, the thing is, once you put on the niqab, right? Like people say that hijab is a barrier, niqab is a barrier, right? And it is a barrier. It's a barrier of protection. That's what it is. And
Hmm.
the
Hmm.
protection that you get from the niqab, you don't get that from just wearing the hijab, to be very honest with you. This is just a fact. I know there's a difference of opinion. on whether niqab is further or not. But again, all of the scholars still do agree that niqab is better. There is no difference of
Yes.
opinion on that. So if something is afdal, if something is better, then why not aim for that? Why not gain from its benefits? That's one thing. But in general, like over here, right, what I've noticed is like a lot of people still try to say that, oh, it doesn't matter what you wear, people still harass you, right? But I genuinely believe, and this is just such a controversial thing to say, but it does matter. I think it does matter what you wear, and I think it does matter how you carry yourself, how you look. Like even for example, like if I even cover my eyes, right, and if I look like this, literally, no
Yeah.
man, no man is gonna be interested in what this is. Like literally, no man at all.
Yeah. Subhanallah.
Like, I'm gonna be
Exactly.
walking down the street. They're just gonna be like what? Well, okay, that's weird or whatever. And they're not. Nobody's gonna bother me. Nobody's gonna look at me funny. Nothing's gonna happen. Still like this, you know.
Exactly.
The more you reveal yourself, the more you're opening yourself to men. That's just the reality of it. That's just how it is. And then like to take off the niqab, then your entire face is being shown, and your entire beauty is being shown. Literally, like your face is the focus of beauty. Like so, if your
Exactly.
beauty is on display, how can you expect men to not? It's not about your hair. It's not just about your hair. It's not just about like your body or whatever. But even like there's so many things. Still, like when you're walking, like people can tell whether you're skinny or like overweight or what. And like so it's not like that. If you're going outside, you're opening yourself up. This is why again, like Islam says like the best. There was this one Sahabi, I believe it was one of the Salaf. He when his wife asked for a jilbab, he said that, oh, I'm afraid that you will abandon the jilbab that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given you. And she said, what jilbab is that? And he said, your house. And
Yes.
while that
Subhanallah.
to us now that sounds very extreme, but to be honest with you, like again, the protection and the safety that you have in your house, you're not going to have it anywhere else. Once you step out the door, you have to make sure you're dressed in a certain way. You have to make sure you're walking in a
Exactly.
certain way. You have to make sure you're talking in a certain way. Your mannerisms, everything has to be done in a certain way, and that's how then people will respond to you based on how you present yourself. Like 99.99999 times, that's all it's going to be. And of course, qadr Allah, like if something bad is meant to happen, then it's going to happen no matter what. Like that's a different story. But not again, 99.9999999% of the time, it is like how you carry yourself and how you reveal yourself and all these things. This plays a huge part, and it affects how men see you for sure, and how much they respect you, and everything.
SubhanAllah. Absolutely. I definitely agree with that. SubhanAllah. We have to have that responsibility, personal responsibility of ourselves. And I think, with regards to leaving the house as well, like, I don't like to leave the house without any kind of reason, like it has to be purposeful,
Exactly.
And I think
Yeah.
when you're leaving the house with a purpose, you do walk differently from just going outside willy-nilly just for nothing,
Exactly.
SubhanAllah, like especially like
And then
leisurely
also,
things.
exactly, and also things like going out with a mahram, right? That's also so important because I think, and this is why early marriage and all this stuff is so. There's so many Islamic benefits to it because you have your mahram to go with and travel with. You have your husband, and the way that
Exactly.
men treat a married woman is worlds different than the way men treat a single woman. Like it's so different. So there's also that. Like there's so many things that go into it, and I'm talking about like from the Pakistani perspective. Like over here, when I go out with my husband and like when I go out as a mother, if I have kids, the way that men help me, the way they respect me, the way that like they're making sure that I'm okay, making sure that I'm like I get to the line first, and so many things like so all of this stuff, like alhamdulillah, it's because of the niqab
Alhamdulillah.
first primarily, I believe. Like it's not, I
Alhamdulillah.
haven't seen them necessarily treat women without niqab or women without hijab, especially in the same respectful way that they do with women in niqab. It's totally different.
Alhamdulillah. So what about have you met sisters, for example, there who have been forced into wearing the niqab, for example?
To be honest with you, I haven't met anyone like that actually. ever. I don't think there's parents anymore advocating for niqab as such. I think
Mm,
it's all I've heard of is kids that want to do it and their parents not not agreeing
not
or
on board with it.
being cautious.
Mm,
That has been like I know so many sisters who don't wear the niqab at home. When they leave the house, they're not wearing the niqab. They hide their niqab in their bag or purse or whatever, and then they put it on when they're like away from home, literally. So I've seen a lot of that happen.
subhanallah. It's like the opposite of some of the school days. I remember when I was in school and, not Muslim at the time, but I had Muslim friends and, they used to wear their hijabs when they leave the house. And then when they get around the corner, they would take them off, subhanAllah. So it's
Yeah,
like we're getting the
yeah.
opposite now because, I've heard it from
Alhamdulillah.
many sisters now. It's like, they start wearing the niqab. So they'll wait till they leave the house. And then when they get around the corner, then they put it on because they don't want their
Exactly.
parents to see, subhanAllah. Like, it just it like
Exactly.
it's as sad as it might be that the sisters have to do that, it's also encouraging in a way that alhamdulillah the younger generation have this level of consciousness about their deen, and they
Exactly.
really like they're feeling like this attachment to their deen, and
Alhamdulillah.
alhamdulillah like embracing their Islamic identity as well. This is really really important, alhamdulillah.
Yeah, Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah. So, what kind of advice would you give to sisters who are contemplating wearing the niqab?
I would say to just do it. I would say that it's the most amazing thing ever, and you should just do it and don't overthink it. Just try it out, which is again, like, exactly what we did basically. And I would say that the kind of protection again that you get from putting on niqab and the kind of privacy that you get is just so beautiful. It's so amazing. It's like you have like you feel like you're in secrecy with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to be honest with you. Like
Mm,
I feel like there's like this shield around me and there's no one but me and Allah basically inside this shield. That's literally how it feels. Like that was my initial like that first day that I put it on, that was basically how I felt. So I would highly recommend it. And again, like don't listen to what anybody is trying to say. Like, if people are fear mongering, you'll never know. Like, if you live your entire life in fear, what's the point? Like, what? And the other thing I would say is, uh, why not be as close as you can to the mothers of the believers? Ummahatul
I
Mu'mineen.
don't know
Why
where they
not?
even get that from. I
Yeah,
don't
I
know
don't
where
know.
they
I
even
don't
get
know
that from.
why. But even
Like,
if, right? Even
don't
if,
get it.
let's just say, okay, sure, fine. Let's say that it's only for them. Why not? Why would you not
Hmm.
want to imitate? Why would you not want to imitate such beautiful people? Why would you not want to be like them in
Exactly.
every way that you possibly can? Why wouldn't you want to, like, like who? And again, the hadith, right? Whoever imitates the people is from amongst them. So why
Exactly.
not imitate the best people? Like if literally the wives
Hmm.
of the prophet dressed in this way where they covered their face, then
Hmm.
why would we not want to follow that example? Whether regardless of whether it's fard, wajib, nafil, like whatever, So
Hmm. Hmm.
I would just think about it in that way.
Yes, subhanallah. Okay, so finally, what does the niqab mean to you?
What does the niqab mean? The niqab is everything to me. Like I cannot imagine my life without it. To be honest with you, I think kind of like what I said, right? Like it feels like a shield to me. That's what it feels like. I feel safe. I feel protected. It means privacy to me. It means a seclusion with Allah to me. That's what it means. It's the biggest blessing, literally. Like Alhamdulillah for Islam. Like Alhamdulillah that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guided us to something so beautiful. Like I don't know what to say. It's the most important part of my life, I would say, to be honest with you. I could never imagine my life without it. Absolutely, absolutely not. I would never leave the house. If I couldn't wear niqab, I would never leave the house.
Subhanallah. Subhanallah. Alhamdulillah. MashaAllah, sister. Allahumma barik, and may Allah keep us all steadfast, and for those listening as well, may Allah keep you all steadfast. Ameen.
Ameen.
Jazakallah khair for your time, and
For
mashallah, a very
having me.
busy mom.
All right,
Yeah, so
Jazakallah
inshallah
khair.
khair,
It was
and
wonderful. It was wonderful coming on to here, and thank you for having me. It was an amazing
wa
conversation,
iyyakum.
honestly. I hope we can do this again some other time, inshallah, because it was really
Inshallah, sister.
lovely
Inshallah.
time. Alhamdulillah.
Inshallah. Alhamdulillah. Barakallah feekum. Thank you so much and have a blessed day, inshallah.
Fiki barakallah, and you as well. You as well.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.